What's going on, y'all? How y'all doing out there in Uncle Steve's Lounge on YouTube? It is Monday. It is December 5th, and we are still agonizing over this loss yesterday to the Pittsburgh Steelers 1916 in what I called Heinz Field South. And for those of you who even saw highlights or even happened to see what I put on Facebook yesterday, just an embarrassing sight in your own statement, in your own stadium, man. It's just really crazy. Welcome to you all. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, tell others about it. We're gonna sit here and talk for a few minutes and talk about some of the fan reaction, because one of the things I like to do, it's easy for us to start talking about X's and O's and plays and things of that nature. But as I sat in the stadium yesterday, which I don't take for granted that everyone can't do that, so I am very appreciative to be able to do that, because honestly, the way the prices are, I don't blame anybody. I kept hearing a lot of talk about, well, Falcon fans should do this with their tickets. They shouldn't do this. And I'm saying to myself, well, you put a better product out there, Falcon fans won't sell their tickets. Falcon fans will, show up for the game. But I yesterday baffled me, because it didn't surprise me that I saw as many Pittsburgh Steelers fans. I was putting it up there. It was kind of, I'm not even going to lie to you. I said to myself, this is probably going to be one of the ugliest attended games in Mercedes-Benz history as far as the ratio of away fans to Falcon fans. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. Just a sea of Pittsburgh fans all over the place. So I'm going to start off, and I'm going to acknowledge the folks first, because you all know I wouldn't be on here if it wasn't for you, and I appreciate everyone posting in. But I'm going to get through a couple of fan questions, and as I go through each question, I'm going to just react to things I have heard in the last 24 hours. And these are legitimate gripes and beefs that I've heard in the last 24 hours about our Atlanta Falcons. And most of them are legit. Some of them are downright silly. But at the same time, that is something that people talk about. Hey, Brother Shin's in the house. What's going on? So I'm going to post on YouTube. Hey, what's going on, man? Good to see you in the house, and also on YouTube on the Dixon Way. Please make sure you subscribe to his channel. I have not had the opportunity to check your stream out, but I can imagine it was something something believable to see. Unbelievable to see, I should say. RJ, what's going on, man? Good afternoon to you. Good to see you. Dixon Way comes in also and says, get Mariota out of there. RJ, same thing. You need help moving Mariota out of town. I guess you must have heard that yesterday with Brother Smitty on Smitty Sports Machine, him and Alberto on 95 North Sports Talk. Yeah, I don't need. I appreciate the help, but it's not going to take much to get them up out of there after yesterday's showing. Rusty said, let's get right to the point. It's Ritter time. Timing could not be any more perfect. Dixon Way comes in and said, we are pissed, bro. Heinz Field South was crazy looking on TV. It looked like a Steelers home game. Not only did it look like that, brother, it sounded like that. And it was so funny because when the Falcons did get the phantom touchdown on the holding call, Hesse, which that's not even, I know a lot of people, oh, Hesse should have been. No, if Hesse didn't do the hold, Cordell wouldn't have made that corner. So at least he was trying. Clayton comes back, says, what's going on, brother? Clayton said, this is the only time I'm rooting for the Aints when they can help us out. But honestly, our coach playing call is on pro level. When is he going to upgrade to all Madden? That's good. For those of you who play Madden, that's excellent. I will even resign myself to say, Clayton, and I feel your sentiment. I won't root for the Saints more than I'll hope the Bucks lose. And I know what you're saying, that's the same thing. But I don't think the words hope the Saints win can resonate with my soul right now. But, it is what it is. Tim in the house. What's up, Tim? Said Mariota is beyond garbage. I feel like Smith is losing the rest of the team. Yes, that's something very important. We're going to talk about in a couple of seconds, too. You hit it on the nail, hit the head on the nail, Tim. Rodney Hill is joining us on YouTube. What's going on, brother? Say, yeah, I heard the Steelers had home field advantage yesterday, brother. I've been to, with the exception of the pandemic year, I think I may have missed about 3 games in Mercedes-Benz. And I can tell you more than a Saints game, that was embarrassing. Embarrassing first because the stadium wasn't full anyway. But the parts that were full, easily 4-1 Steelers. Easily 4-1. So, I don't know. Michael Walker, what's going on? Michael says CBS made it seem like it was still a home game. They didn't have to make it seem like it might. They didn't have to. Look, there was nobody piping noise into the stadium like our buddy did years ago in the Georgia Dome. They didn't need to pipe noise in there. The Steelers fans came to play. They came to root. They came in numbers. They took over the stadium. And God bless them, man. That's one of those vintage franchises. So that's not a total shot. But, it is what it is. Jimmy, what's going on, Jimmy? How you doing there, brother? Good to see you in the house. Rodney says, good afternoon, by the way. You're a pure comedy. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Look, some of it, unfortunately, is a comedy. It's probably the truth that sounds funny when it comes to these Falcons, man. But it is what it is, brother. But I appreciate the comment. Winston says, what's going on, brother? Winston, it's always a pleasure to see you and talk to you here on Uncle Steve's Lounge and also in Atlanta Bird Gang on Facebook. I don't want to leave out my ABG family. Glad to have you in here on the aftermath. Had a little early today. Got to do some personal things a little bit earlier in the evening than I usually do. So I appreciate you all joining me to talk about this. And I'm going to throw these fan things out at you for a couple of seconds. Jimmy says, for those rooting for the Saints, no words. We can't beat a bad Pittsburgh team, and we will be the first team in history with no home field advantage in the playoffs. Better try and get a good draft pick. Hey, well, I'm going to address that too, Jimmy. I'm going to get to that in 1 second. Brother John Harris is in the house. As my boy says, the Steelers fans roll deep. Yeah, they do. I mean, they do. I've seen Dallas come close when we were in the Georgia Dome. Dallas actually travels good too. This year, we've just had a whole bunch of 49ers. Even Cleveland. Cleveland had it pretty full in there. But again, this is not just the product of people traveling. This is the product of us not being a perennial winner, us not being a team that's going to draw anybody in. Don't get it twisted that every time the Falcons come in here, opposite team comes in here, they're going to fill up the place. I'm telling you right now, the Super Bowl year, you naturally have the Saints who came in here and did their thing, but you didn't see an over 50% away team come in here and take over during 16 and 17. You saw a good number, but when we're winning, you don't get that. And even during the 08, 2012 run of Matt Ryan, you didn't get that in the Georgia Dome. You didn't get that just takeover spirit from the other team. That's what you got yesterday. But if you don't win, people aren't going to come. And I have to, for those people who I keep seeing posting on Twitter and on Instagram and on Facebook talking about shame on people for not showing up for their team. Yeah, right. I'm just a different breed. Don't go by what I do. I just like being at the game. But I'm not going to blame you for selling tickets if you could. If you could sell the tickets and you get a fan to pay money for that, then more power to you. I'm not mad at anybody who doesn't want to financially invest. We're already emotionally invested. If you're sitting at home watching the TV every Sunday, watching the Falcons, you are just as good of a fan as the person who's sitting in Mercedes-Benz. Don't let anybody fool you. You are just as much of a fan, and we are happy to share that emotional bus with you. But for all the big time critics who seem to think just because you don't pay for a ticket that you're not any less of a fan, or if you say, no, I don't want to go to that embarrassing place where it's going to be 4-to-1 ratio of Steelers fans, and I'd rather sit at home on what turned out to be, it actually wasn't that bad yesterday, a cooler day, I wouldn't do it. So I don't blame them. Dixon Way says, even Coach Smith has finally seen that Mariota is an answer, and everything will be evaluated in the bye week. If Smith doesn't start Ritter, he will lose the team, and Arthur Blank has faith in him. I'll disagree with that, and I'm going to come to that in a second after I finish seeing the folks in here. Brother Charles is in the house. How you doing, Charles B? Travis, what's going on, man? Says Steelers fans follow their team religiously, and Atlanta is a transient city, so no surprise. But you know what? At some point, though, Travis, listen, born, raised here, Holy Family born, Bankhead raised, Douglas High School. I get it. I'm Atlanta. At some point, that has to be a lame narrative sometimes. Because at the end of the Georgia Dome run, during the Super Bowl run, we didn't have that happening. You know why? Because we were a fairly competitive franchise then. From 2008 to 2017, we missed the playoffs 3 times. I say 4 times. I'm sorry. 4 times. In 09, 13, 14, 15. The other 6 years, we were in the playoffs. And people came. And you didn't see that embarrassment that you saw yesterday in Mercedes-Benz. Also, personal seat license, must admit, has to take blame. You outpriced your city. And I hate to say it like this. I'm going to become very real with you. Smartest move the Atlanta Braves did was to go to where the people live. They looked up, they saw where most of their fans were buying those tickets, and they took the stadium up there. Arthur Blank, I'm just trying to tell y'all, man, for everybody that gives Arthur Blank a hard time, Arthur Blank wanted to keep the stadium in Atlanta to help Atlanta out, to bring the revenue to those hotels. Folks ain't flocking down here to see the Hawks. People love football. Let's not pretend that if Atlanta wasn't up in I want to say Cobb County or Gwinnett County or where there is more affluency, Douglas County. I mean, let's not fool ourselves. You outpriced the fan when you added the PSL. And I understand why he did that too. He's a businessman, man, trying to make his money back. But you can't put a losing product on the field and expect everybody to come pay. You can't. Now you're going to get foolish fans who just like, oh, ride or die, I'm going to pay anything. And anything is strong. I won't pay anything. But you get some of us to say, you know what? I love the Falcons. I know I'm going to be there, so I'm going to do that. But by no means am I ever going to sit here and try to dog out fans for not wanting to come to the game because it's outpriced. Dixon Way says the Braves do that to lower baseball teams with Braves country on the road. I heard a large chop chant when we played against the rookies and the Marlins. Says, yeah, the Braves travel well too. And actually, if you ever go to a Braves game, and I haven't had the pleasure to go to Truist Field to see a Braves game. I've been to Truist Field before to see my buddy's son play in the high school championship for baseball. But the Cubs travel well. Dodgers fans, if you're probably from LA and stuff, they're usually there and things. But Atlanta is one of those teams. Atlanta's one of those teams that you go to a stadium just like you just like Shan said. You hear it. But there's also a consistency of winning attached to that. We've only had a couple of lulls in the Braves over the last 2 decades. Hasn't been that many. And in fact, we're probably in the playoffs 70% of the time since 1991. I'm not sure that number exactly, but it's got to be close. Clayton says, does Blank know we're not getting them pandemic checks no more? $150 for one ticket in 300 section in the holiday season. I know they just hosted the SEC championship, but come on, man, that's fair. It's fair, Clayton. It's a fair point. John says this is going to be a long 2 weeks. We got 2 sports controversy. Yeah, I ain't worried about the Hawks at the moment. Yeah, I know they got some stuff going on, but we're going to focus on football for now. Dixon Wade says, I was a 7-year season ticket holder, but me and the wife aren't paying a PSL for a subpar product. I don't blame you. And that's the thing. Folks, there is not going to be anybody that's I don't know. And to the Falcons, they need to bring out some apology letters. They do. Rodney says, true, best way to touch Arthur Blank's pocket is not coming to the stadium to support garbage. That's how you force them into making changes with the organization. They call it protest, folks. What's up, Foster? How you doing, brother? Say it's over. And again, a lot of these do not live here. Think about Katrina saying, this is true. Yeah, a lot of the Saints fans that come were already relocated here. Because don't get me wrong, the Saints-Falcons rivalry has definitely been going on since I first went there a long time ago with the parents. But now it's something real. But a lot of people were displaced during Katrina. So when everybody said, oh, the Saints fans traveling, a lot of them are here. Rodney says, were there more fans during our first game when we played the Saints than any other home game? Surprisingly, Rodney, I always figured the Saints to be the highest, visiting team to come in. Not this year. San Francisco absolutely outnumbered them. Cleveland outnumbered them. Chicago outnumbered them. And Pittsburgh took the cake yesterday. I would say this year alone, with the exception of Carolina didn't exactly travel. They usually travel pretty heavy here, but not this year because they came in, I think, 2-8 or 2-6 or whatever they were at the time. Pittsburgh was 1, Frisco was 2, Chicago was 3, Cleveland was 4 in that order. Saints did not match up, even though that was the season opening game. They were there, but they weren't there as heavy as those 4 teams, which is a little bit of a surprise to me. Anthony, what's going on, man? So I don't think starting Ritter is going to do anything for the Falcons this season. Too many holes on the offensive line, some shaky play calling. Is it going to help Ritter? Mariota is what he is. Interesting thought and cool if you think that way. Winston says, not talking to Anthony, says not about saving the season now. It's about having a clue which direction we're going to go into. And with that, I'm going to go into, hold on one second, get a couple more in here to people I haven't seen yet. Here, Coach, what's going on? How you doing there? Kevin says, you have to think TBS 17 for the Braves and WGN for the... Yes, this is true, too. And I think a lot of people forget about that, Kevin. I think people who have less gray hairs than we do. Back in the day when TBS, when cable wasn't 500 channels and 500 choices, and you didn't see every single major league game on TV, Atlanta Braves were always on. WGN Cubs were always on, probably in the early 80s into the mid 90s until baseball finally kind of spread it out. And again, football the same way to a certain extent. They didn't show they didn't have an NFL Sunday ticket. And I'll take it even one step further. They had the blackout rule back then. The blackout rule is a lot different than what it used to be. You didn't sell, what was it, 80, 90% of the stadium, or a technical sellout in your stadium. They didn't put your game on if you were at home. We saw all the away games, but if the home team didn't sell out, you weren't on TV. Falcons were not on TV a whole lot. So anyway, what I want to do is, before I go back one more. This is my brother David, so I always got to say, what's up, Dave? Say, if you build it, a winning team, they will come. Stop getting in my head. I literally was going to say that a couple of minutes from now when I was going over my little shot sheet here. This is one of my things, David. Hey, man, you blowing it for me, bro. Do that. But you're absolutely right. You win, folks will come. It's simple as that. I know he's taking that from the Field of Dreams football version, but that's it. So anyway, so I just wanted to go by a couple of statements that I've heard, and I want to just hear some of what you guys think about these statements. And there is no right or wrong answer to some of these. Now, there are some of these that are kind of humorous, but they are actual things that I have seen in the last 24 hours of people saying. Blow it all up. It's over. Fire everybody. Now, of course, this is the extremist. Of course, this is the fan that I can understand, frustrated, upset, mad about what's going on for the season. I have no problem with people showing emotion like that. The blow it all up thing is kind of strong. We remember coming into this season. It's so funny because coming into the season, some of y'all make me laugh because some of y'all tried to pretend like y'all were the most cool people. I don't know why my thing is got a film on it now. See, there we go. I don't know what that was. Something good. Almost seemed like I had a glow on my head. But most of you all were acting like the most mature folks. Well, we have a new team, and the team isn't, they don't have talent. So as a fan, I'm going to embrace that. And if we have only 5 wins, you know what? That's my Falcon team, and I love them. And they're going to and stop lying. Some of y'all be the first people that wrote that are the first people that, as soon as Facebook, after the Saints game, the first game this year, I hate Falcons, blow it up, get rid of all of them. And there's nothing wrong with that emotion, but it's always funny to me that people always go there and just act like, yeah, that's it. But that's question number one. Dixon says, the Dixon way says, in the 80s, I was sneaking in Fulton County Stadium to the Falcons game because they were blacked out. Security would let us in afterwards to keep us from being in the streets doing bad. That's actually pretty decent. Rusty in the house. What's going on, man? Don't need to fire anybody, but we need to start Ritter after the bye. We're going to get to that, Rusty. Slow down. I'm trying to get these questions one at a time, my brother. James, what's going on, man? How you doing, brother? So I heard the same thing this morning. The Falcons know what Ritter can do, and that's why he is not being played right now. It's not time to blow it up yet. Give Art and Terry a very short leash next year with the space we'll have if performance doesn't improve, and then it's time to make changes. Again, so I'm glad that you're responding to this because, again, these are the things that I heard last night. So it's just always interesting to me to hear other people's perspective because I don't have all the answers. That's why I love listening to what other people say and just saying it out loud sometimes just to hear. So here's the other perspective that I still hear. I'm not saying I agree with these things. These are things I hear. The other perspective is be patient. Mariota wasn't going to win anyway. Let Ritter continue to ride the pine. You'll be surprised. Even after yesterday, there are some folks very content with seeing Mariota do the same thing over and over again. But yet, because we started like that week 1, we're going to finish like that. You know, it always goes back to when we talk about Bill Belichick and those coaches that are willing to make adjustments on the fly or adjustments during the season. Those will turn out to be the smartest. Those will turn out to be decisions that can save a season. And more importantly, probably save the team's psyche. But there is a portion of the fan base that is still riding Mariota to say, you know what? Let them finish. Let them ride on. Rodney says, nah, don't blow it all up. A few more pieces and maybe a change in coaching would do us good. Winston says, people was cool with us going 2-15 at the beginning of the season. Then we win a couple of games, and then they think this team is poised to be world beaters. This is a rebuild. Can't be mad for what's going on. And again, Winston, I think there is a percentage. There are a percentage of folks who can probably take that. The only difference is football is so much different than basketball and baseball. John was alluding to earlier about the Atlanta Hawks and some of their things that they're going through right now. In basketball, baseball, hockey, you have so many games that it's hard to get extremely upset about a 2-game or 3-game winning streak because the season is dang near 8 to 9 months long. In football, you have, well, now 17 games. And this, I always call them 17 little mini seasons because each game is such a story. Each game is such drama. Each game, you can come out of a football game and say, wow, that's the best team I've ever seen. And then in 1 week, the narrative will change because of how they played against another team. We do it all the time. Buffalo at the beginning of the year destroyed the Rams at the very beginning. Oh, Buffalo's the team. They're untouchable. They can't be beat. Buffalo loses to Miami, the game that everybody was cramping up on. Yeah, Buffalo's kind of fraud. Josh Allen, he can't run. I don't know. He's not that good. He doesn't really throw the ball. Blah, 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 blah. Then a couple of losses later, Buffalo, I don't know. They might not even win the division. God, man. Guess where Buffalo is right now? Buffalo's number 1 seed in the AFC. So again, even with the Falcons, 5 weeks ago, we were 4-4. We were the side story on ESPN, NFL Network, and all of that good stuff. Falcons 4-4. They're ahead of schedule. Mariota was player of the week 1 week and all this and all that. And there were a couple of us, and me included, it's like, yeah, this is okay, but y'all still be careful now. We don't have a rich roster. And it take a couple of injuries just to go in the other direction. So, yeah, it's always interesting. And that's the one thing I actually love about football fans. And that's in college, too. College is the same way. 1 week, you're Alabama, and you're 5-0 or whatever it was the week they were going into Tennessee. And then one loss to Tennessee. Nick Saban's getting old. I don't know if he's gonna make it. Yeah, this Alabama team is nowhere where they need to be. They whatever. Now, of course, they ended up being number 5 and just barely missed the playoffs. But what I'm saying is, football is one of those things. It's just I love it because there is drama inside every little game. Rodney says, agree with being patient, but Ritter needs to be evaluated. Shan says Arthur Blank hired Coach Smith before he hired Terry. In my opinion, Terry might be fired before the GM. I have to keep reminding people about that situation. Yes, technically, Arthur Smith was hired before Terry, but y'all, that situation, don't forget. And this is why I think Terry all along was going to get the job even before Arthur Smith. And I even think he knew Arthur Smith was going to be the guy. Remember, you couldn't officially hire Terry that year because Terry was still in the playoffs and New Orleans was still in the playoffs. The minute New Orleans lost, they announced Terry the next morning. So I keep hearing people bring that up. I don't think it makes that much of a difference, in my opinion. I don't really think it does, because if you're good, you're good. If you're not, you're not. I don't think. I know a lot of folks are old school. Hire the GM first, let the GM hire the coach, whatever. I don't think for 1 minute Terry Fontenot was not in the loop about Arthur Smith being named the head coach. I don't think that's true. Kevin says, you're preaching now that rubber has met the road. Sitting through that storm is not as cool. It's in the mist. That's good. Unfortunately, it may last longer than we want. Fans should be prepared. You're right. RJ says, I'd rather keep Terry Fontenot in the long haul, knows how to draft, build a team the right way. Arthur Smith needs to get rid of his stubbornness or get fired. Tim says, we already know what we got in Mariota. Interception when it matters. It's now time to see what we have in Ritter, whether he's the guy or not. Still have something to play for, but a long shot. So let the rookie in and see what he can do. Maybe Smith can get some of the locker room back. What's up, Robin? How you doing? Thank you for joining me on Uncle Steve's Lounge. As always, come on in. We talking amongst family here. Rusty said, I said this at the time, but nobody wanted to hear it. We kind of beat up on the injured Cleveland defense and the injured San Francisco defense. That might have given fans hope. I took it with a grain. Here's the problem with that, Rusty. I don't care if every single person on the team is injured. Bro, that's football. So there is nobody's going to go back and devalue wins because the other team is hurt. San Francisco, who might be the most talented team right now, just lost Jimmy G, who was, by the way, on the bench when the season started. There is nobody feeling sorry for teams when you beat an injured team. Nobody. So I can't prescribe to that. I get where you're going, but I don't prescribe to that at all. If somebody's hurt when you play them, shoot, they hurt. Now we have to go back and play Frisco again. Then you can come back and say, yeah, okay, now they're healthy, so now we have to, keep that in mind. I don't care. Myles Garrett was hurt the first game. Nick Chubb wasn't. Kareem Hunt wasn't. And even in the game, and even in the San Francisco game that you talk about, the problem wasn't the defense. You still had Jimmy G, George Kittle, at that time, Jeff Wilson, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. So you mean to tell me that you could only score 14 points on this defense? So that's where I kind of balance it out. No excuses for injuries. It is what it is. Every team has people injured. Winston says it's the same thing when we hired DQ. We have to wait till Seattle was out of the playoffs. Now, very good point. I remember that. You're right. People need to stop talking about Arthur Smith being fired. It will not be spoken about in the front office till at least the middle of next season. He will get a shot to see what he can do with best with a better roster. That I agree with. I don't think. Listen, Arthur Smith's stubbornness aside, which I do feel like he has been stubborn, he's also been given some no-name brand players. No name. Who's the name on this team? Grady Jarrett, probably. I guess AJ Terrell, but he's still young. You can't win without talent. My son just, and I were just talking about this yesterday. Who do you market on this team? Do you market the young guy Drake? You probably will market Ritter off the bench more than you'll market Marcus Mariota. So, yeah, I think for that reason, I think Smith will get a bye for this year. Now, come next year, to your point, if he starts off like Quinn 0-5, then that'll be something to talk about. This is the question that everybody's talking about. So I wrote it in 3 different ways so people can discuss. And so please respond. But I also want to just make sure that you get the 3 responses. So the first one, change the quarterback now. We've got to know what Ritter is. That's one philosophy on why you would change the quarterback. Number 2, change the quarterback now. We can still make the playoffs. Number 3, change the quarterback now. We just need something different, aka a spark. Now, I go back to all 3, and I'm gonna hit it real quick because I know y'all are gonna give opinions, so I want to hear them. Change the quarterback now. We got to know what we had as Ritter. I must admit, that's probably the personality of a fan that I'm thinking of more, even more than making the playoffs. And I'll get to that in 1 second. You're right now at a point where you know for sure Mariota is not going to be on this team next year. And if he is going to be on his team, they will cut him and re-sign him for $1 million, not for the $12 million that is currently on his 2-year contract. Falcons can cut him with no penalty next year. Going into next year's draft, if the Falcons end up 5-12 or whether they end up 8-9 or whatever, you need to know if Ritter is going to be worth keeping around here. Ritter might not be the guy. Ritter might say all the right things. He might do all the right things. He looked okay in preseason, but not get out there and look like a deer in headlights. So we don't know. But I do feel like we need to see what he is. And remember, with 5 wins, even if we did end up 5-12, we're not going to be the number 1 overall pick. That's going to be Houston again. And Houston, judging by what I see with Davis Mills, they're going to be trying to reach out for Bryce or Stroud or whoever they have in the top 3, whether Levis is up there or whatever. So from that standpoint, that's more of my motivation to see what Ritter is, because I truly think one way or the other, we need to see, are there flashes? Is there anything redeemable about him so we can go into next year? Maybe we don't need to spend money on a quarterback. Maybe we don't need to shoot for the stars and somehow miraculously get Lamar Jackson or something like that. Or try to get him. I know before everybody comes in, we're going to franchise. I know that y'all been doing this for a while. Gotcha. But I'm saying you'll know the direction you're supposed to go. So if Ritter is here, cool. He can stay. And then you go spend that money on edge rush, defensive tackle, another linebacker, a safety that's not getting his head planted into the ground. Those are things you can invest in. Offensive line. So that's why I'm leaning that way. The other one, change the quarterbacks. We can still make the playoffs. It's actually true. Mathematically, even if Tampa Bay wins the game today, we're still mathematically in it. Tampa still has the 49ers, albeit without Jimmy G, But they beat Miami yesterday, and Miami is better than Tampa. They still have the 49ers and the Bengals on their schedule. Don't know if you heard, Lamar Jackson just got hurt. And they're saying he might not be ready for a couple of weeks. One of those weeks possibly being when we travel to Baltimore. So can Ritter bring an ability to throw a pass that's not 8 feet over the wide receiver? I don't know. But if you don't change quarterbacks, you'll never find out. What I do know is Marcus Mariota can't make throws like that. Marcus Mariota will make that little teeny weeny throw and let the running back do what he does, or let a crossing path of OZ do what he does. But Marcus has thrown one great pass out. Well, no, I'll take that back. He's thrown 2 great deep balls all year. Other than that, he missed Drake. He missed Drake so bad, man. Drake turned his head, and that's the first time I think I've seen on the field that I saw a receiver look like, dang, bruh, just throw it to me. Drake looked so disappointed. So that was crazy. And the third one is change quarterbacks. We just need something different. And that's part 2 for me, next to let's see what Ritter is. Because I think what you don't want to do is lose the team. And I think we're close to losing the team. I've heard everybody talk about how bad the defense is. And you guys are on point. We absolutely do need some help putting pressure on the quarterback. We let Pickett sit back there, and if Pickett was anything accurate, they would have won by 2-3 touchdowns. We let a non-accurate quarterback last week in Heineke eat us alive. So we do need help on the defense. But I'll say this. We can go into the yardage and all of that as much as we want. We held 2 teams to 20 points. Less than 20 points, I should say, which is 19. We had 2 teams that did not score 20 points. You tell me where the onus is. Yeah, I know Darren Hall is not that great. He's a third string cornerback at best. Yeah, Isaiah Oliver is not an elite cornerback. Yeah, Michael Walker walks past people trying to run blitz folks. Yeah, we have people hurt in our secondary. They gave up 19 points in an NFL game. Your offense should be able to generate 20 points. And if you're not generating 20 points, you need to look and see what you can do to change that. And I'm trying to tell you, I don't care about defense wins championships. I don't care about offensive lines, because I'm sitting here watching Joe Burrow with a broke offensive line beat arguably the best team in the AFC. I don't want to hear that. The quarterback position is the most important position on the field. And if you don't have a capable quarterback, if you don't have an above average quarterback, you will lose. Don't holler to me about Baltimore and Trent Dilfer. Don't holler to me about Brad Johnson and Tampa Bay. I don't want to hear all that stuff about the Chicago Bears and Jim McMahon. I'm not trying to hear all that. You must have a capable quarterback in the 2000s to be successful. You must. I hear everybody. Defense. Well, we haven't had defense in 20 years. You know what? We did have defense. But it just didn't match up at the time. We had defense the first 5 years of Matt Ryan. We had defense the Super Bowl year, the second half of the year. We had a defense the 2017 year. And we still didn't win. I say we won. I take that back. We won games, but we didn't get the championship. So when I hear people just bellyache over that, that bothers me. Quarterbacks make the difference. When Terry and Arthur swang for the fences to get Deshaun Watson, and some of y'all too more over morally people, well, he went to a massage parlor, blah, blah, blah. And I understand the ramifications. I'm not trying to, this has nothing to do with disrespecting women and all of this and all of that. But some of you holier than thou folks act like y'all can't see that that's one of the top 5 or 6 most talented quarterbacks in the league and want to throw stones. I am happy to know that my front office is swinging for the fences for a quarterback. You can't win in this league without a quarterback, as we have learned miserably this year. So that's my thing. Change the quarterback. And I know I probably went past a lot of statements, so I apologize. Let's go back down to let's go back. I think that was Winston. No, it was, here we go. This defense is better than we think. We get caught up in yardage, but it's the score that matters, man. You can score 500 points. I'm sorry. You can score 500, get 500 yards, and it don't matter. Georgia allowed 500 yards total offense to LSU, 30 points. But LSU let Georgia score 50. So who wins? And yes, that's great. Kirby can go back and teach them and say, yeah, Ohio State is better than that, whatever. But they won. We got to stop that. Defense does win championships. It helps win championships, but it ain't the only thing. Got to be able to score. Rodney says, yeah, but he picked up Kyle Pitts and Mariota, but can't get his first pick the ball. Here's the problem. We'll never know, and I wish I was in the war room for the Kyle Pitts pick, because I think you picked when you got Kyle Pitts that year. I think there was a thought that this was for the now, and stay with me because I'm one of the biggest. I am one of the biggest people who say you should have got a quarterback, aka Justin Fields. But at the time they got the pick, I think there was a thought that we were going to squeeze whatever juice we had out of Matt Ryan. At the time of the draft, Julio was thought to be on the team. At the time of the draft, Calvin Ridley was thought to be on the team. So when all of those things were happening, you were saying, oh, man, we giving Matt Ryan all these weapons. But when you remove Matt Ryan's gone, Julio's gone, Calvin Ridley's at the slot machine, and now you're left with nothing. If you had done all of that and drafted Justin Fields, at least you have your franchise quarterback there. But we didn't, and no need to beat a dead horse. So now you pick Kyle Pitts, who now this year is probably frustrated he's not getting the ball, and unfortunately ended the year on IR. So, yeah, I mean, it's fair criticism, but I'm thinking maybe that's what they were thinking. I don't know. Rusty says all three are logical. And again, that's why I put them down there, Rusty, because it's easy to say, let's change the quarterback, but there are different reasons why. And I think all three of those reasons encapsulates what the Falcons should be looking at, whether it be to see if Ridder has it, to try to make this playoff run that we were trying to make with Mariota at quarterback. And almost forgot my third point. I have to go back and see. Just to get a different spark. Just to get a spark out of that. Winston says, change the quarterback now. We need to know what we have with Ridder. We squeeze wine from a rock. We need to know with Ridder because now we have the 10th pick in the upcoming draft. And let's face it, y'all, if we lose every game with Ridder, but we'll have a block of work that we can judge. We'll have a resume of Ritter of what he can do. And at the end of the day, that's what we want for the future, right? To know what Ritter can do in the future. That's why we're going through all this. Rodney says, LOL, so you saying Ritter could be a Frank Darby type? No. Listen, you don't know. We don't. Ritter could get out here and absolutely wet the bed. So if he does in these 4 games, you can easily go back to the pot, still keep Ritter because Ritter is cheap. You can still keep him on the roster and develop and see what happens. But at least going into 2023, you will know what you need to do. So, yeah. Let me see. Let me go back. What's up, John? How you doing, sir? You're late, just getting in. Yeah, I'm early, John. I'm early today. I had some stuff I have to do today. So welcome in, my brother. David said, at first I said no because that 8% chance that we would make the playoffs. Then I slept on it. I woke up this morning saying what I'd been saying from the beginning. We're not making the playoffs, and it's time to reevaluate Ritter. I want this team to be successful. And one of the one of the things I always hear too about this playoff possibility. Well, why would you want to go to the playoffs as a losing team? Why would you want to go play and then get destroyed by Dallas or Philadelphia? Because it's the playoffs. Is there anybody that thinks TCU is going to beat Michigan or Georgia? I mean, maybe. So I don't know. So do you think for 1 minute that those teams are going to just say, well, we can't beat them, so ain't no use of going? No. Cincinnati last year. Do you think Cincinnati was like, well, there's no need to do anything because we know Georgia the best team ever. So, but Cincinnati, not Cincinnati, Michigan, same thing. They knew they weren't going to beat Georgia last year. You think they're going to turn it down? Of course you try to win. That's the goal. Winston says Houston and Carolina are drafting quarterbacks. Levis and Williams will be available if we trade up. But what you going to trade with? We don't need to be in any trade. The last trading we should have done was Calvin Ridley. Now, if there are people that I've always thought this, Caleb Huntley, it's going to be a crowded running back room next year. And I truly think we might pick up a running back or even draft another one. It's going to be a crowded running back room. I think Caleb Huntley, you put like a second or third round tender on Huntley. Somebody's going to pick up Huntley. Huntley's going to be very valuable going into the year. But trade up. James says, Cousin Steve, I agree with you. He does need to be evaluated by us and the staff. That's right. Shin says, I want Jalen Carter next to Grady, get rid of Dean Pease, and run the 4-3 defense. You're not going to get Jalen Carter, man. I hear people saying Jalen Carter. We're not going to get Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter's going to get picked number 3 or 4. We already got 5 wins. We're not going to get Jalen Carter. I wish we could. Let me make that clear. But we're not getting Jalen Carter. He's not going to drop to 10, 11, 12. Rodney said, LOL, or better yet, Tat McKinley. Oh, Tat. John says, Steve, I think Ritter is the man because one thing he can do is he can throw the football with accuracy and make Eminem the backup and drop his salary down. Well, the second part of that could realistically happen because I don't think Marcus is going to be marketable to anybody in the NFL the way he's performed the first, especially the last 4 weeks. I'm thinking in the first 4 weeks, he had 1 week where he was offensive player. He had some moments where he actually was doing some positive things, but I think at the end of the day, he is a backup quarterback. The only thing I just caution about the Ritter accuracy is stuff, but He was accurate against third and fourth stringers in preseason. Until we put him out there against teams. And let me tell you, if he goes out there against New Orleans, oh, Lord. New Orleans front seven is no joke. They bring the pressure. Now, if he can get that baptism by fire, then more power to him. But I just caution the accuracy because he's been getting chased around by his teammates who can't touch him. He ain't been chased around by people's job is to hit you and hit you hard, take you off the spot. All the stuff that he's looking on the sideline with Mariota doing, saying, oh, well. So again, I agree with you. I hope his accuracy does help. I hope his accuracy is better than Mariota. But let's just not make the assumption that just because he was accurate in a preseason game against Jacksonville, that translates into a week 16, what is going to be, week 15 game against the Saints. Winston says Mariota is a mesh route elite. Anything intermediate is beyond a crapshoot. And that's a very good thought. Anything over 20 yards, he had about 4 passes yesterday that was 3 feet taller than the receiver. He had Drake London on an out towards the end zone yesterday that Drake, like I said, Drake just lost his mind. You could just see it. Clayton said, honestly, since we got 14 days, plan for MM to start, but get rid of Ready. He should be already ready, but tune him up hardcore. We do have a chance, but we need other teams' help. Shaking my head, but we need a spark, not just the quarterback position. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say that's the wrong answer to let him start. Again, they could come back today just like I do with the aftermath. Take a deep breath, 24 hours or whatever. But I do feel like Clayton, I do think a lot of people sitting here saying, oh, he changed his mind because he got hurt. Listen, yesterday I saw Arthur Blank on that sideline. And I don't think Arthur Smith came to that press conference ready to be as gung-shy as he was. I think Arthur Blank met him in the tunnel. Arthur Blank looked up and saw all those terrible towels in his stadium, along with the thousands of empty seats, and took a third look at the scoreboard, which was showing a replay of Mariota throwing another touchdown for the last play for the Falcons. And he followed Arthur Smith into the tunnel and he pulled him aside into one of the closets. And he said, hey, the kid, number 4, can he throw a ball? And Arthur said, yeah, but by no means. If he can't throw a ball, if he can throw a ball, you need to let him in there. Because right now, what's going on right now isn't working. That's my thought. That's my play acting of Arthur Blank to Arthur Smith. Shannon says, Steve, remember when I pointed out when Kyle Pitts was arguing with Coach? Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, and you're right. Kyle did have a little disagreement. I saw that after you told me that. Yeah. Winston says, if you can, look at Cleveland and Houston. Clayton, Julio wanted out before the draft, but not publicly, Clayton. That didn't come out until the Shannon Sharp phone call. Shannon Sharp phone call was in July. At April of that year before the draft. Matter of fact, I even tell you why that's not true. They even put out the little poster with Matt, Julio, Calvin, and Kyle. So probably behind the scenes, they probably knew there was stuff with Julio. They probably knew there was stuff with Julio at the early part of the year. But at that time, the public's perception was he was going to stick around. John says, Steve, if he doesn't play Ritter for the rest of the season, he will not be the coach of the Atlanta Falcons by the end of week 17, guaranteed. Only thing I'll say about that, John, and again, I know after these couple of nasty losses, these were ugly losses because you have an opportunity to win. The last 2 games, we were inside the 10 with the opportunity to take the lead. Both times. Anthony, what's going on, man? Say, I just don't understand Arthur Smith when it comes to situational play calling and continue to put Mariota in a bind, knowing he's an inconsistent passer, but then have that dumb look on his face with a turnover or something. He did have an ugly look when Mariota threw that interception or something bad happens. This has happened the last 3 games, and we have yet to see any accountability from the head coach. That is a major red flag for me, especially if you're going to stick to your guns and not play Ritter. Absolute great point. And so you kind of probably lean towards the change Ritter just to change this stuff up again because we keep getting the same stuff. RJ says, at the time we drafted Kyle Pitts, Terry Fontenot is known for drafting the best available player, and most experts had Pitts the second best player in the entire draft behind Trevor Lawrence. Only reason I hear you, Michael Parsons was drafted outside the top 10. If we go back and do that draft now, you see what I'm saying? I know he was doing his drafting, and let's not fool ourselves. He was doing his drafting with Mickey Loomis. Mickey Loomis, he didn't make a move without Mickey Loomis's okay. So I don't know. They drafted when Terry was on the staff. They also drafted Davenport. Davenport wasn't the best player in the draft. The best player available when they drafted him that year. Matter of fact, a lot of people thought he took a risk on that one. So I'm not disagreeing with your point completely. I'm just trying to say, yeah, I don't know. More power to you. I'm never going to knock opinions, but I'm just saying, I don't know about that one. Take a look at Baker Mayfield. He was just waived by the Panthers. He was a first overall pick. We might have a great quarterback on the bench. I'm trying to see who that is. That's Tim. What's up, Tim? Again. Yeah, maybe. I look at the Ritter thing more as Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was drafted second round, tucked away, while Carson Wentz was trying to make his comeback. And the time came at the end when Jalen got his shot. And Jalen got his feet wet. Jalen plays some pretty good ball. And voila, 2 years later, number 1 seed so far. Baker Mayfield is going to end up in San Francisco too. Watch. Winston says, biggest question marks for next season are quarterback, center, offensive guard, nose tackle, edge, linebacker, defensive back. Basically, the majority of the roster. This roster isn't it, but they definitely have punched above our weight class. These guys have overachieved, man. These ragtag guys, and I mean rootable for guys. I root for these cats, man. I root for the Abdullah Andersons. I root for the Timmy Horns. I root for the D'Angelo Malones, even though he got drafted pretty. I root for these guys. I do. I mean, even, Frank Darby to a certain extent. I root for the majority of these guys because they weren't expected to be on an NFL roster. The Caleb Huntley's, those cats. You root for them because they're good guys, but at the end of the day, good guys collectively might not be able to win games. Now, again, if you improve on the most important position, that I noticed you put quarterback first, if you improve on the most important position in NFL, you're more likely to see an improvement in the number of wins from a quarterback change than you will a defensive change. Joe Burrow went to Cincinnati. Joe Burrow changed the culture in Cincinnati just like that. First year, obviously, we was hurt. But you could see it was different. That man has beaten Patrick Mahomes 3 straight times. No coincidence. He's good. Now, we're not going to sit here and sell you Cincinnati's offensive line. But if you improve that position, folks, sky's the limit. I'm just saying. Winston says, what's OZ's contract looking like? How many more years do we have him secure? You know what? I'm not sure. I'm going to pull up my spot track while I'm sitting here and check it out for you, though. Atlanta Falcons. Right here. Rusty says, I do not want Levis. If you're trading up for a quarterback, is Bryce Young or nobody for sure, superior arm talent? Yeah, I gotta agree. If I'm gonna trade up, you might as well trade up to the top. If you're gonna do it, if you're gonna do that, trade all the way to the top. Don't half step. OZ is a free agent. He's making $2.4 million this year. He is a free agent next year. Free agents right now, since we are talking about it, and I know you were talking about the ATL. There we go. All right, free agents for the Falcons this year. Lorenzo Carter, Caleb McGarry, OZ, Isaiah Oliver, Rashad Evans. I think Rashad might be back. Damian Williams, Bradley Pinion, the punter, Keith Smith, Eric Harris, Elijah Wilkerson, who has definitely deserved to be re-signed, Demir Bird, Michael Ford, Anthony Fursker, Kadero Hodge. I'm going through names because you got a couple other folks. Michael Pruitt, who has more touchdowns than any receiver, I think, on the team. I don't know how many Drake has, but he's either tied or has more. Colby Gossett, Abdullah Anderson, Caleb Huntley. That's an interesting list, y'all. Pull this down a little bit more. Atlanta Bird Games in the house. What's going on, brother? Says, I hope Ritter works out, but we really don't know. Preseason football and regular season football are two different worlds, and I know you probably just poked your head in here. I made that point exactly. Throwing against third and fourth stringers, trying to make the matter of fact, probably more the people that played against Ritter in the secondary, probably people who just got drafted into the XFL more than they're on practice squads in the NFL. That's not a shot. That's probably for real. So I agree with you 100%. It's easy to say, let's make that switch now. But keep in mind, Ritter hasn't seen real life bullets yet. And he's seen guys on his defense that run up to him and then they can't touch him. The guys that are coming, if he starts for New Orleans, they coming to hit him. He also says, remember Mariota looked great in preseason too. I remember that. I remember that first drive like nobody's business, Tidy. The first drive, Mariota went straight down the field. I was at work. It was a preseason game in the evening. I had my headphones on, and I remember Facebook blew up. I wish we could go back to that day. I looked at my phone. Mariota's going to be really good. What a change. He's a veteran. You wish you could go back to that time. Because when he had that ball-out game against Detroit on that one drive, everybody lost their minds. But Rusty says, before the 21 draft, there were rumors Terry wanted a quarterback and Arthur wanted Matt Ryan. I actually believe that. I think Terry wanted the quarterback. I think Arthur wanted the tight end. I have nothing to substantiate that, but there's just this feeling in me that I think Terry, and I'm going to tell you why. See, if for no reason people should have faith in Terry swung for the fences with Deshaun, y'all. You swung for despite the issues, Terry said we need a talented quarterback in this city in order for us to be successful. To me, that buys Terry 2 years, at least. Because if I have a GM that's not trying to better my team, what are you there for? And I just thought, to me, that resonated with me. So, yeah, I believe this rumor just based on, look, Terry Fontenot said for 2 straight years, I think he was trying to get Justin. And when Justin didn't come out with Matt Ryan sitting in the back room, hey, Houston, y'all think y'all can? Yeah, Deshaun. Yeah. See what we got. I mean, he is. Coach Peppers, what's going on, man? How you doing, brother? Says Mario overthrew the ball so high, El Giante, and the great Kali bring the passes down. I was talking about that yesterday, Ghost. I was saying Bo couldn't catch the passes that he was throwing yesterday. I mean, and y'all know what? I want to like Marcus. It's not personal. I think Marcus that's probably why Arthur's sticking with him right now. Marcus seems to be a good leader. But sometimes leadership, bro, your leadership has to be on the field. Some of the guys that probably can't speak worth a dang or can't rally folks with strong speeches and eating a W. Go look at Jameis. Those are the best leaders because they lead by example. They don't have to be rowdy. They don't have to do that. They go on the field, do their jobs, and folks on the sideline say, dang, I never hear him rally us. I never hear him with the big speech at the beginning. But goodness gracious, y'all see the love he getting from all that good play? That's what you look for in a leader. Rodney says, I just don't want the Falcons to do with Ritter like they did with Brett Favre. Not saying Ritter is going to be as good, but you never put him in. You never know. Very big difference for I keep reminding people, and people keep forgetting about this. When Brett Favre was signed, folks, that was the year Chris Miller had arguably his best offensive year. And that was the year that we went to the playoffs. Brett Favre got a chance to start, I think because Chris was hurt or whatever it was. But we didn't just waste Brett Favre. We traded Brett Favre, one, because he was too much trouble in the ATL by himself. And two, because we thought, because of the playoff year, Chris Miller was going to be sustainable. And it turned out they made a bad decision at that time. Rusty says Terry's the GOAT. I hope so, Rusty. I hope so. Ghost Pepper says, MC Hammer adds, says stop Ritter time. Oh, man. Winston says Terry is a monster at GM. Within the next 3 years, he will have a GM of the Water year. And I'm telling you, it starts this year, y'all. It starts this coming off season. We can't judge Terry on this year. They basically tried to tell us that, but we got happy when we were 4-4. We got happy. Now we all sad. Who we got here? Dwayne, what's going on? Say Marcus is great at making those farmers insurance commercials back at home in Hawaii, unlike passing the ball. Yeah. RJ says, off Falcon subject, what's your thought on Baker Mayfield being waived by the Panthers? I think he'll be a 49er by tomorrow night. Either tomorrow night or Wednesday. At least. Antonio, what's up, Antonio? I want a center who can snap the ball. Antonio, you noticed that too. On that last drive, the one that we ended up kicking the field goal on, Man, Dahlman, I don't know where Dahlman was trying to hike the ball, man. Mariota, in his defense, the ball was low a couple of times. One time it was high. Yeah, I long for Alex Mack days. Absolutely. I agree with you, brother. Ghost Pepper says, call San Francisco. They may give us a second round or third round pick for Mariota. This front office has a specific skill set in overselling players who are past their prime. Ghost, I joked about that with my son to say Frisco just needs somebody, I don't know, somebody like who can just manage. They have so much talent around that team. They don't need somebody over the top. That's why I say Baker might fit. I'm not trying to sell you that Baker is great. I'm just trying to sell you that Baker has started more than 40 games in the NFL. And if he started 40 games, that could be the experience that you need with a team that's basically ready right now. Now, is the Mr. Irrelevant guy, Purdy, is he ready? I don't know. But it would be nice to get that, to get that guy in there. Right, it says Mariota throwing the alley oops. And look, even the pass he threw, he soft passed that intercept. Man, we were sitting up there and we stood up. He was at the 2-yard line, and I saw that pass. That pass looked so soft and with no zip on it. I said, man, that's a punt he just threw. And he wasn't going to get it. Says, damn, I hate being right about my books in this season at 4-4. I was able to rock, but then my wife told me she didn't have any more books, bruh. You called it. I mean, you called it right on it, man. No possibles here. No possibles. CP, what's going on, man? How you doing, brother? Good to see you come in the house. We've been chatting up about the Falcons. Let me throw these last couple of questions up here because we kind of stopped after the quarterback change, and y'all just comment as I'm bringing them on here. These are comments that I've seen over the last 25, and I wrote just to show y'all down. I didn't write them. I put them in my iPad because I was saying to myself, these are things that I want to talk about. These are actual quotes after the game yesterday. Fire Arthur Smith and take Terry with you. I saw that. And again, Arthur Smith probably is the guy that's more polarizing because he's been standoffish, and I agree. You know, when you're standoffish and you're kind of blunt with the press, and I don't even mind coaches having a little attitude with the press sometimes, because sometimes the press people can be pretentious and try to be know-it-all sometimes too. So I'm not even mad at him having attitude with the press sometimes, but I also say, yeah, but be careful, because when you're winning, you can kind of stand up there with a little bit of attitude, but then when you start losing, those press people start remembering those things that you said earlier. Something else I saw yesterday, Arthur Blank shouldn't have never torn down that church. Every time I hear that, I just laugh at people, because I always say, please go back and watch where that congregation is right now. They are not sitting somewhere in some desolate area with they were paid handsomely. And for those of you that's kind of interested, I have some thoughts, but I better not go too deep. But that's just one of the funny things I always hear. I saw this yesterday, and it was in jest. I said, it's Matt Ryan's fault. I don't know. I just, when I see things, I just like to just grab. And I even saw this. It was Mike Vick's fault. I don't even know how that snuck on. And then the famous one that I saw yesterday, and it just makes me even laugh. Blame it all on 28-3. So, it is just one of those. I'm just telling y'all, we are so emotional, but I love it though, in a certain sense. Now, you have some folks that go a little off the rail, and y'all got to know how. Some of us need to know how to you can tell when that little troll or that little person over there is just trying to stir up stuff. I hope people will be able enough um, to kind of see that they're just trying to get, like, when going back to the fire Arthur Smith and Terry thing, that's somebody that wants to fire up people. That's somebody that wants to start things up. So you can sit there and go at them all day. You're making their day, because that's what they do. The negativity that they bring is just something that, just kind of hard to. They do this to get people to respond. That's exactly what that is. Let me go down here and see. I'm sorry. I'm way behind. Let's see. Well, maybe not that far behind. J Dot, what's going on? J Dot says we need more than 16 points from the offense. J Dot, you listen. I talked about it. I know you came on late. I talked about this a lot. If you're holding your team, if you're holding the other team to less than 20 points, I'm probably going to blame the offense. Pittsburgh scored one touchdown yesterday, and they had opportunities to score, but they didn't. So you got to give the defense a little credit. They did. So, yeah, you're right. Offense has to be accountable, which is why you're probably going to see a change. David says, fire Arthur Smith and Terry Falcon. I'm telling you, man, folks are crazy. Ghost Pepper says, Mariota got pissed off at the wide receivers for overthrows and gave them pump-up Reeboks. Oh, not the pump-up Reeboks. Shan says, I really feel Arthur Smith is that prickly with the press. He knows he has Arthur Blank in his pocket. Terry is in a hotter seat than Arthur. But I hope I'm wrong. I disagree. I think Arthur is going to be the one that will pay for this more than Terry. I don't think. Listen, Arthur realizes Arthur Blank. He signed those big checks to Matt, to Julio, to Grady, to Dion, to Desmond Trufant, to Devonta Freeman. Those 5 to 6 contracts alone that they signed after the Super Bowl at some time or another, we are still feeling the crunch of those contracts. Not all 6 at the same time, but we're still feeling the crunch because Arthur Blank emotionally paid. You see what I'm saying? In that 2016 team, Matt Ryan was going to be a Falcon for life. Y'all remember the saying that everybody hates now. Julio, Falcon for life. All of that stuff. Arthur was being emotional. That's why I think he brought Terry Fondo here to say, okay, well, I need somebody to keep me straight. And Terry probably told him, well, first, if you're going to need somebody to keep you straight, you know what? We got to get these books right first. Because you overpaid for these cats, Arthur. So, yeah, I have to disagree with you about that. Rodney said, LOL, Vic's fault. I'm trying to tell you, man, this is what I saw on social media. This is what I saw. Anthony, what's going on, brother? Say, yo, bro, Steve, I'm checking in late, homie. I'm laughing with you about the churches. They got filthy rich. I'm like, man. See, that's the part that I think people don't understand. Y'all act like Arthur Blank went in there with a bulldozer and stood outside until them folks left. Do y'all see how much money? Go back and look. Go back and look. They got paid. No doubt. They got paid. But yeah, it is always funny to me, Anthony, to hear people talking about that. Shin says, as I said in my stream, Steve, we are some damaged fan base, and these streams are my therapy, brother. That is so good. Damaged fan, we are emotionally damaged. We are emotionally damaged. D, what's going on, man? Say, D, what's going on? And tell me, why do we lose? I'll tell you why we lost. I'll tell you why we lost. We have a quarterback that can't throw the ball. Our running game is still. You can look at our run. Just out of curiosity. I'm sorry that I'm going back into the archives. Even with which is interesting that we didn't even run the ball that much in the first half. We didn't. We ran 37. No, Pittsburgh. We ran 28 times for 146 yards at 5 yards a clip. CP had a 5.5 average, Algier 5.5, Mariota 5.7, Huntley 4.3. When you're running the ball like that, when your defense, even though they're giving away yards, are not letting the team get in the end zone but one time, you got to go look somewhere, man. You got to go look at your quarterback. And it's not all on Mariota, but all I'm saying, folks, and you improve the quarterback position, you get better play. Rodney says, true, Pittsburgh kicked us to death. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Four field goals. 1 touchdown. RJ said, old quote I heard before, they should have kept Mike Vick. We would have had a Super Bowl. I've heard that too. I've actually heard that too. Man, Arthur Blank was mad at him for going to jail. Stupid, man. Russ said, Huntley put an IG story out yesterday after the game. He put a caption on, he's tired of losing. People need to remember we can have all the money, but free agents need to want to come re-sign here. Yeah, man. I mean, that's real. Athletes don't try to lose, man. Athletes. If you think for 1 minute some of these guys making millions of dollars just cash the check and say, well, at least I got the check. Cats want to win. Don't be on TV losing. Ghost says, why did Arthur Blank hire the head coach before the GM? I explained this earlier, Ghost. I think people always kind of misinterpret that. Remember, Terry was still with New Orleans, and New Orleans was still in the playoffs. You can't sign somebody off the team that's still in the playoffs. Matter of fact, during those playoffs, you had a window that teams that are interested to you that can come talk to you, but you can't make that hire. It's not like they hired Arthur Smith 3 weeks before they hired Terry Fontenot. Terry Fontenot was going to be the GM, but he couldn't officially be named until after the New Orleans game. New Orleans lost that Sunday. That Monday morning, it was official. Terry was the GM. So they didn't do an interview after the game with him. He was going to be the guy, but legally they couldn't do that. And somebody brought up earlier, and they were right. Same thing happened. Dan Quinn, we couldn't talk to Dan Quinn until Seattle had finished making their run a few years ago. Shen says, dude, you know I understand and was preaching how Dimitrov failed this organization for years. I was that dude in your chat, Pete Netrum. I know you are not a TD fan at all. David says, the hitch in Mariota's motion right when he gets to the top of it. Why hasn't anybody tried to fix this? David, here's something that I don't know. I know they try to sell you that they try to win and they try to do this. I'm almost wondering, did Marcus overachieve? And when I say overachieve, not him personally, but did the team overachieve? That's what I should have said. When they were 4-4 after week 8, and I'm almost wondering that at that time they said, dang, man, we thought we were going to be 2-6 by now. We could have thrown Ritter in here. But we were 4-4 on top of the NFC South. And, maybe that was like, what should we do now? Well, you got to let them roll now. And then the mantra became, well, while we're still in the playoff hunt, let's keep Mariota in there. And it was just obvious to me after yesterday. That was probably one of Marcus's worst games that he played. And And at some point, you got to make a change. And when you're a team that's in transition, and when you're in transition, you can be winning as well. When you're in transition and you see something that, or you see where you need to make a change, you go ahead and do it. There's no reason not to. So, Dixon Way at Huntley is tired of losing and not being used. The last game he had 1 run. Yesterday he had 2. Okay, but CP came back. Remember that, y'all. Huntley was getting all the rushes before CP came back normally. The first game CP came back, he didn't get as many carries. Patterson is the number 1 rusher on this team right now. He's the number 1 RB. Huntley's not going. Somebody's going to get squeezed out. And that's why I mentioned earlier in the stream that Huntley is probably a candidate to put a tender on going into free agency, to be able to, for a team to get him, that's going to cost another team at least a 3rd round or a 4th round pick. Somebody's going to be interested in Huntley. I just think right now the running back room is going to be too crowded. CP's not going anywhere. He's on a very manageable. Matter of fact, let me go back and look here. He's on a very manageable contract. Atlanta Falcons contract. Almost par. Let's see. Cordero, 2 years, $10 million. Matter of fact, I think next year he doesn't even make that much. Yeah, he got a signing bonus this year. Next year, his salary is $4.2 million at 30, 3? No, at 32. He'll be 32. The Falcons can actually cut him with only a 3.7 dead cap hit, but I think he'll be on here. But as long as he's on the roster, he's going to be your number 1 running back. Ghost says, so in other words, Arthur Blank already had his mind up about Terry Fontenot. Yes. John says, okay, did Fontenot hire Smith? But here's the thing, John, and I hear you, but I think he was aware that Arthur Smith was going to be his coach. They had their eyes on Terry Fontenot at the beginning. That was even the rumor. Everybody was saying that he had his eyes on Terry Fontenot at the end of the season with Arthur Smith. I mean, Arthur Blank, I'm sorry. I got to get them authors right. Does Smith drag Fontenot into the... No, he won't. Smith and Fontenot are... If Smith leaves, Fontenot will have a chance to bring somebody else in here. We gave TD 2 chances? No, 1 chance. 2. No, 1. Smith and DQ. So no. Anthony says, Steve, who are you riding with tonight? It's tough for me to root for other team. I hope it is at the time. No, I'm rooting for Tampa Bay to lose. Notice I didn't say I was rooting for another team to win. I'm rooting for Tampa Bay to lose. I can't stand Tampa Bay, but I will say I can say their names with a loss. I'm not going to say I hope the other team, wins. Dixon Way, Steven, when you end the stream, please take us out saying make a change by Michael Jackson. Oh, it's crazy. John Harris says, and David starts questioning about that hitch. You know why that hasn't been fixed? There's nobody to fix it. Yeah, and the good point John has been making about having a realistic quarterback coach, and we don't. We have somebody who did not play the quarterback position that is coaching up the quarterbacks. He's absolutely right. I that's something that just blows my mind. And for anybody that brings up Raheem Morris coaching the receivers, that's a totally different thing. That was a receiver room with Julio Jones, Sanu, that you probably didn't even need a major quarterback. I mean, a major receivers coach in that room, but it's a legitimate thing John has been hitting on. He's right. Dwayne says we need to make a major culture change. They should have never dropped the parachutes, being that we were losing. Give Steelers fan more ammunition as we drop. Yeah, the parachutes are a little bit different. I mean, that's something. I don't think the Falcons for 1 second in their wildest dreams think that the other fan base is going to come in here and outnumber us. But I'm not going to blame a promotion. That's a promotion that happens every game. Every game they do that parachute. I don't think it's a game they haven't done the parachute this year. So a little deep for me on that. The culture change, I should say, I think the culture change has started. This is a different mentality than it was even last year. With Matt Ryan not in the building, it's a different culture change. It is a different culture. It's definitely a different culture. Now, let's try to see if putting a capable, talented quarterback in and see if that culture can even get better, the new culture. I don't even knock the promotion. Chick-fil-A pays money, man. Chick-fil-A pays millions of dollars to be part of that. Is it Chick-fil-A or the Georgia Lottery? Whoever it is that does the parachutes in the middle thing. I always think that's fun. That thing. I hear you. Now, one thing I do knock the Atlanta Falcons for, that if you were at the game, which it sounds like you might have been, when Mariota got sacked, somebody in the music room start playing the music that we play when the quarterback gets sacked. Did you notice that if you were there? Yesterday, when they did that yesterday and Mariota got sacked, and which was the only sack of the game, they literally start playing the little sack, the music as if it was us who sacked Kenny Pickett. And I told my son, I said, are we celebrating Pittsburgh's sack? The fans were doing enough of that for us. But literally the music started coming on like, oh my goodness. Dixon Way, when do you want to stream? Me and the wife bust out some kids song acapella. We do need to do that before the year is out. Let's see if we can sneak us a moment. Weston said we'll bring back CP84 and Mariota. MM will be back on a rework contract. Smith is loyal till fall. MM falls under as long as I have a job, you have a job. And I don't have a problem with that. If he resigns him under that, I don't have an issue with that at all. If he comes in here for $2 million, $3 million, anywhere up to $4 maybe. I can't pay him more than $4 million. I'll be willing to keep him around as a backup. RJ says, I'm rooting for a tie in tonight's game. I don't like anyone who plays in the same division as Falcon. Here's the problem, RJ, and I read you loud and clear. I don't like Tampa. I don't like the Panthers. I don't even need to mention this, the Aints. But self-serving, we actually do need the Bucs to lose. If we and it goes back to the mentality I hear here. Why would you want to make the playoffs with a team that's not? Because it's the playoffs. They don't put anywhere on the banner what the record is. Carolina didn't tear up their banner when they were 7-9. Neither did Seattle. Neither did Washington a couple of years ago. It's as my man was talking about culture. The culture, yes, even if you're 7-10, 8-9, or whatever it ends up being, you still want the culture that we won this. And so that kind of bothers me when I hear, and I see it in Facebook, I see it on Twitter. Why would you want to be a losing team with a losing record that wins the division? Because it's there. Somebody got to win it. Do you think for 1 minute Tampa Bay is going to turn down the banner if they're 8-9? They're going to go, never mind. We don't want it. No, they're going to take it. So I don't know about that. It's kind of ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thought to me. Dwayne says, got it, Steven. I live in Hawaii, first game of the year. Things they don't show on TV. And I heard someone saying something about the music. Yeah. Yeah. Winston says, why would you not want to make the playoffs regardless of the situation? That's a losing mentality. That is so bad. I'm glad you said that. I sometimes I lose my thought. That's a perfect thing. That's a losing mentality. That's a losing mentality. Win the freaking division if you have a chance. We're not eliminated. Matter of fact, if the Bucks lose tonight, guess what, folks? Guess what? We're in a really good place now. We have to win. The caveat is, once you get into the division games, yeah, New Orleans, I will say, because your division record is already crap, we're 1-3. The New Orleans game does become, now we start talking about must win. So it is what it is. Anthony says playoff builds confidence going into next season. I agree with that too. I agree. You got something to put on your wall that says NFC champs, even if it's 8-9. Who cares? It's ridiculous. RC the plane builder. What's going on, man? So I'm just beyond frustrated with Marcus. I love your word. I'm going to just let everybody else try to pronounce it, but I get the gist of what you're saying. That's actually pretty good. I might need to screen. Let me see that. That's actually kind of funny right there. Let me screenshot that for a second. Good job, RC. That's kind of funny. Titus says, imagine if the guy from Boston College was here. 50% of this fan base would be still blaming the O-line, defense, and running backs for his inabilities. We blame Mariota for being bad solely. And it goes back to, we say it, I mean, I say it all the time. And I keep putting it on repeat because there are new people. Quarterback is the most important position in North American sports. It is. A quarterback can elevate a team to wins even if the rest of the team is crap. See Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. A quarterback can change the fortunes. A quarterback can lift the spirits of the fans. If they come in to spark play, they can. So I know there are so many people that don't think, oh man, Mariota, oh man, but you know what? Switch it up. You have nothing to lose. You're already 5. You're 3 games under 500. You have nothing to lose. If Desmond Ridder goes on to win 2 or 3 games, good. Now you know you got your quarterback going into 2023. If he falls flat on his face like Richie Grant after Najee, then you know you got to go into the draft and see what you got. Or make a real run at a quarterback, i.e. Lamar Jackson. And I'm not saying Lamar's 100% coming. I'm saying, but you try. Start Ridder please, for God's sake. That's Johnny. Johnny, I think we trended in that direction. 3:30 in the house. What's going on, man? Say, you are a PSL owner. I'm thinking there are 2 types of Falcon fans right now because of the conversation. Nothing changes our ticket price. Speak on the difference in the 2 fans. I wax poetic about the Georgia Dome and when we were able to go there, and at at the time, let's not fool ourselves. Those ticket prices were just as high at the Georgia Dome. Now, when we went into the Mercedes deal and they told us about the PSL, and at that point, you have to decide whether you want to be that guy. Now, I will say this. the PSL does have its advantages. I was just able to unload the SEC championship tickets recently for a nice amount. And I also have the semifinal tickets that I will probably be releasing to get to sell. So those are the advantages. But the fan, as far as the fans that just had to pay the ticket price, you're asking in the inner city of Atlanta, you're asking people to tack on thousands of dollars to have access to the seats. And sometimes every event, they don't give you access. But you're asking people to pay extra money on top of the already inflated ticket prices. Everybody can't do that. And with that extra money, the fans expect extra. They expect something different. Falcons fans not Falcons fans. The Atlanta Falcons folks have to step their game up and improve this team. I almost say I wish we would have kept the dome open a little bit longer. I think that 2017 season was a little bit different when we went into that building. That dome, that last year, man, that's the first time I've ever been in a stadium that rocked. And I'm not saying it as hyperbole. The stadium rocked. Well, 2 times. Might have been 2 times in the Seattle game. Russell Wilson falls down for that safety in Seattle for the Seattle game. That place was literally moving. And in the game against Green Bay, there were 2 stadium rock moments. The first one, when Matt Ryan scrambled and scored that touchdown, the stadium rocked. And then when Julio, coming out of halftime, scored the pretty much nail in the coffin, rocked. So yeah, I mean, it's a different atmosphere, but we haven't truly had that winning success since we've been in this building. I would love to see what the building would look like once we get our act together and start winning. Rusty says, so in your opinion, do you think they make the change at quarterback in New Orleans? I think so. If you anybody, and I know, let me know if y'all have seen the presser with the Atlanta Falcons, the one that Arthur Smith gave yesterday. He's actually supposed to be doing something now, and I'll probably miss it, but I'm sure they'll have it on recording somewhere. But go back and look at that presser. Remember the defiance. Remember the, stubbornness. Well, we're going to do what we do. I mean, Marcus is and Scott, and I don't have any plans. All of that Rain Man-ish type stuff. Yesterday, he seemed to be humble. And I told you what my theory is. My theory is Arthur Blank pulled him to the side when they went in the tunnel. And before he went in to talk to the guys, he pulled him in the tunnel and said, yeah, bro, you need to change this. You need to change this now. What Terry can do, Terry can bring the players on there for Arthur Smith. What he can't do is tell them what plays to execute or put somebody who doesn't have talent in a position. Terry doesn't do that. That's Arthur. No. John Harris says, speaking of Ritter starting, he's been thrown into more of a pressure-packed situation that he would have been if he had come in earlier in the year. He's coming to potentially save the season. Is this fair? It's actually a good question. Um, but in the words of uh, Tom Slick, you knew the job was dangerous when you took it. No, that's Chicken George. I'm sorry. Same set of cartoons. Yeah, Chicken George. You knew the job was dangerous when you took it. And Ritter has to be ready, man. He has to be ready. You know, bottom line. And I think he probably is ready. I think there was a little bit of stubbornness with Smith. I think he's ready. Atlanta Burger said the last season in the Dome was very special. There were times in there where I couldn't believe I was in Atlanta. You'll never understand it if you were there. I know we have shared stories about this before, and we even had streams where we asked people about their favorite moments in the Dome, and it was just a shame because it was on that tail end of that last bit of Matt Ryan's prime, if you want to say. But it's a difference, man. And the point of all this is to say PSL aside, which is not aside, it's a very big part. If you don't win, man, you're going to see crowds like yesterday. You're going to see crowds like when Frisco came to town. You're going to see crowds like when Chicago came to town. You're going to see. Now, the difference is in some of those situations, if you had a full 70,000 fans in there, that would be one thing. But you got already 40, 50,000 fans, and out of the 40, 50, 30,000 of them are Pittsburgh. That's crazy. John says, don't be surprised if Mario starts against Saints. I'm not. I won't be shocked. But just go back and look at that presser yesterday. I don't think that presser was just all of a sudden an epiphany hit Arthur Smith, and he said, you know what, y'all, I'm going to evaluate everything and whatever. No. No. Go back and look at a couple of things. Go back and look at Arthur Smith's look when that interception was thrown, and go back and look at Arthur Blank's look. That's all you need to know. Something was said yesterday that made him go up there. So the Georgia Dome wasn't really even old, especially compared to other stadiums, arenas. And you know what? The Georgia Dome opened business when the year after Deion left. Deion had 1 year in there, I think, 1 year, and then the next year he was gone. If I'm not mistaken, somebody go back and check me. It was either 1 or 2 years. I think it was just one. So you're talking about early 1990 to 2017. That's only 26 years. And what bothers me about the PSL, let's just say, for instance, as state of the art is supposed to be now, what if somebody brings another design in about 20 years? And speaking personally, I have invested thousands of dollars into that license. And now you're going to build a whole nother building in 20-something years? I know I'll be a little older, but I wanted my investment. It's something to think about. David says we need to start a winning culture in our house. We're 20 and 26 since we opened that building. 20 and 26, you must be overall. 20 and 26 at home? We won 20 games? I don't know, maybe so. Don't seem like we won that many games, but maybe you're probably right. Just don't seem like we won that many games in there. I have to go back and look at that. I know the 7-9 season, the second one, I know we won a couple at home, but then again, we won 4 games at home this year too. So that could be right. Clayton said he should be ready. Brother Shin says, I'm a Georgia Dome season ticket holder. I love that stadium. Rodney says, yes, I was there for that Saints game in 2016 when Neil was clocking folks. Oh, man. We almost blew that game in 2016. We had we were up 30-something to 10 at halftime, and they had to hold on. Abel says, what's going on? Says, if Ritter is the guy, he'll welcome the pressure. I hope so. Anthony says, Ritter just needed to be ready for the call. There is no perfect situation. This is big boy ball. And that's what you got to think. We didn't draft him. We didn't draft anybody to be scared. And you almost have to remember, too. Let's think about this. Think about what Ritter is probably mentally looking at. Ritter was the second quarterback off the board. He's looking over at Kenny Pickett coming into town, actually starting. He looking at Tennessee, and though Malik Willis is nowhere near ready, I don't think, to take over the team, but he had a couple of starts. Well, at least one, but he's had moments that he gets to get in the game. Trying to tell you, man, I think Ritter's going to be ready. RJ says the only reason the Georgia Dome was gone because Roger Goodell said we wasn't getting another Super Bowl. I believe that. I do. And I think it's also very beneficial to Arthur Blank. Remember, with the Georgia Dome, Arthur Blank had to pay off that lease. Arthur didn't own the Georgia Dome. Arthur couldn't benefit from the Georgia Dome. Now with Mercedes, he gets the concessions, he gets the parking, he gets a lot this go round. So don't feel sorry for him. John says on Ritter, if Mariota isn't getting any quarterback coaching, then who is getting? Yeah, I hear you, brother, and yeah, it's a dead horse, but I got you. I hear you. Got to try something though. I see what you're saying. Ghost Pepper says, notice Ritter doesn't sit next to Mario for the thrower because he don't want to rub off on him. Y'all are ruthless, man. Wallace, what's going on? Wallace says, what's up, Uncle Steve? The reason they had to build a new stadium is because the Goodell told Blank they wanted to host another Super Bowl. I hear you. Absolutely. And then remember, too, because Arthur Blank has control of this Mercedes-Benz, Super Bowls, Final Four, we missed out on the Final Four because of the pandemic. College championships, which I think we were just awarded 2025 or 2026. One of those two. We were just awarded the college championship. James says, I live in Maryland, but I was at the Dome for the NFC championship in 2013. That was another one, James. That as much as because we are, kind of a slave to the last thing that happened. Everybody, of course, 2028-3 is always going to stand in people's minds. That NFC championship game was actually just as hurtful as 28-3. We were up 17-0. Julio caught that pass in the corner. We were up 17-0. And that place was rocking. Colin Kaepernick was looking around. He didn't know what to do. We were killing them cats. And then, whew, man, oh man. And that was also coming off of almost letting Seattle come back and win too. Say, yeah, it's more of a business move for Blank with the new stadium. He gets all the money now. And that's what it's all about, Tiny. That Blank Foundation, that stuff doesn't pay for itself. It doesn't. But in fairness, I know we've talked a lot about Terry and Arthur and stuff. This year, because Arthur and Terry will have a clean slate in salary, we got a couple extra picks. This is why I'm going to give Arthur Smith, no matter how stubborn, no matter how whatever, I got to give him a little bit of a pass until next year. Now, next year, you get no pass. You don't. RJ said, yes, we got the 2025 national championship game. I thought so. And they got, like I said, they got the semifinal game in a couple of weeks. So John Harris said, and while y'all talking, we need a center. Man, did you see those snaps that look in Mariota's defense? Some of those snaps on that last drive, he had two of them he had to pick up off the ground almost. And then he had one that came right up to his chest. Yeah, Dahlman, we definitely need an improvement with Dahlman. And says, and plus, whether good or bad, a new stadium is just so Atlanta. Very progressive, groundbreaking, and influential city. All the teams in Atlanta have new stadiums and arenas. And that's the thing I think people miss about the metro Atlanta area, man. Folks coming here. They come in here. When they come here, they want to be able to see not only the home team, they want to see the teams that they grew up in come down here. That's why the Pittsburgh fans are so strong. Pittsburgh is a legacy team, folks. Chicago is a legacy team. Cleveland is a legacy team. Those are old school teams. San Francisco has a winning culture from all the Super Bowls they got in the 80s and 90s. It's nothing you can do about that if you're in Atlanta. But Arthur Smith is trying to cater to that. And I don't blame him. But what he needs to do, the real money comes in when you build that winning culture yourself. And you can sustain yourself on a full house build. I have yet, except for the Green Bay. My wife said the first year game against New Orleans was sold out. But the Green Bay game that we kicked off in the stadium, that's the first time, that was a night game too. That's the first time that I saw that stadium slap full during the professional. I don't know, the SEC. Even though I heard the SEC championship game wasn't that full this week. But, you know. Anthony says, Steve, you remember when one of the churches tried to squeeze Blake for millions and he came back with, they'll just build up on Ivan Avenue? Right. Hey, man, Arthur's a businessman, brother. 330, some people are PSL owners that travel to the games. I've been traveling from North Carolina as a PSL 2008. You're a bad man, brother. That's a long way. Winston says, MM has completed 5% of his passes of 30 yards plus. Absolutely embarrassing. Wallace says, but our defense couldn't stop the tight end play that year. Oh, you talking about Vernon Davis? In 2013, Vernon Davis killed us that game. James says, I remember that play. Harry Douglas fell down and had a clear TD. Harry Douglas still gets sensitive when people talk about that to this day. But yeah, you know how you have those moments in the stadium? Because that was us getting ready to go take the lead. And you have that moment in the stadium when something happens and everybody stands up. Harry got that ball, man, and he caught that, and everybody stood because it was nothing but grass in front of him. And Harry fell down, man. I would hate to bring that up to him too, man. That was just an unfortunate play. John says you want to hear crazy. Blank is leasing the Mercedes-Benz Dome. He owns the concessions and the parking on that dome. But, I think he has a deal with the city on that, too. He actually gets quite a bit of money from that, though, John. I have to go back and see, but I actually don't care. But he's making more money than he did off the Georgia Dome. I never thought Hennessy should have been benched. Yeah, that was a weird when they were playing tag team with that. Going forward. Look, y'all have been so awesome, and I appreciate y'all joining me. My plan, because I knew I had to be gone by 3:30. That's why I came on early, but I know a lot of people wanted to talk, especially with the rumors coming in that this might be the last week of Marcus Mariota torturing us as a starting quarterback. So I know we had a lot to talk about. Appreciate everybody joining me today. I'll be back on Friday with the NFL picks as I normally am, even though the Falcons aren't playing. But some important games going on next week that have to do with us. So I appreciate everyone joining me. Everyone I didn't get to, I appreciate y'all. I promise you, I try my best to read everybody's comment as much as I can because it's important to hear what y'all have to say as fans. when it comes to Atlanta Falcons. So let's do this again, man. We'll catch y'all next go round. Appreciate it. Y'all have a great time. It's rainy and nasty here in Georgia. Y'all be safe. Be good. Check y'all later. Peace.